Well, hello, hello, and hello again. What another opportunity from the Crotchety Old Men podcast. Hi, I'm Gary Smith, and of course, my coach over here. I'll call him Coach George now. You can call him Boss, but we call him Coach Crumley today. What's going on, Coach?
Everything's good, man. Everything's good. No complaints at all. How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm like you, man. All thanks, no complaints. You
There you
know.
go. There you go.
Yes, indeed. I mean, for there's some of us in the Midwest and certainly always in the South, it's hot today. But using the word hot, I believe we have a hot topic as well. And George was share with them, our listeners and followers out there what we're talking about today. What makes it so
Well,
hot?
Smitty, I think that, at our age, it's so important, that we watch what we eat. I know we talk about exercise and diet a lot, but I was listening to a few articles and, I think it's important for everybody because our young folks are, getting types of illnesses and types of diseases that you didn't hear until later in life. So it's interesting to me, and it's all because of what you eat. You know what they say: you are what you eat. So I think it's important that we talk about it. I hope a lot of people listen to this podcast because some of the things that we take for granted, could be affected us negatively. But one of the things that really interests me was the fact that over in Europe, they eat differently than we do. We're always talking about controlling our weight and all these weight supplements and losing weight. And because I mean, you've been to the grocery store, you've been to these places, you see these people walking around and they're somewhat overweight. But when you go to Europe, and I've had a privilege of doing it on several occasions, people aren't as heavy. And you wonder why. And then sometimes you don't even think about it. But then when you get back home, you think about it, like, wow, okay, different. So I thought it'd be good, to talk about food, what we eat, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully a lot of people get something out of this.
Man, I'm sitting here holding my composure 'cause I'm busting out laughing on the inside because I said, man, listen at him, man. He's laid that out so eloquently and kind. Man, get your fat behind away from the table and stop eating that garbage. But I understand
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
said. When you go to Europe, you see people. There's a reason why they eat the way they eat. I mean, look the way they look. I mean, you go there, you find most of them they're exercising without going to the gym. It's called walking. Okay, when you go even to the Orient, go to Asia, go to other countries, and you'll see people are walking more or either riding bicycles. All right, are there cars and trains there? Of course, they're there. All right, but movement as well as dieting will certainly equate to a healthier lifestyle, if you will. Um, it's amazing. In America, one of the wealthiest countries, not one of, the wealthiest country on the planet, we have the highest cost of healthcare, all these medicines and things of that nature. And yet and still, we have the highest level in many areas of diseases, particularly chronic diseases such as diabetes, a lot of inflammation and hypertension as it relates to African Americans. And so, going back to your point, George, is all about what we eat, not necessarily how we eat. We can get into that later, but hey, let's kick this can around for a minute. What are some of the things that we should be focusing on when we do go to the grocery store? I like to say, what are some of the things, George, that we can do to participate in our own rescue as it relates to food choices?
well, Smith, I'm gonna say right off the bat, I'm probably gonna butcher some of the names of some of these products, because these additives that they put in some of this food, those 14, 15, 16 character, a lot of X's and J's and things like that. So I may butcher them a few, but I think it's very important, and it's a habit that I've picked up when I go to the grocery store is reading the label.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things that you want to avoid. Red dye number 3, potassium bromate. It's something they put in bread. Have you ever put a loaf of bread on the counter and remember and wonder why a month later it's still sitting there and it's not molded? It
Yeah,
will happen. I mean, it's the fact, and that's because they've put so many preservatives in that bread. It's pretty much won't mold. And as a kid, we remember that mold would grow on the food, on a food or bread. If it left too long, it stayed too long. But you don't see that a lot anymore because here again the additives, titanium dioxide, E171. It's a whitening coloring agent, that they put in food. Sometimes you wonder about the color of the different food. And I'm gonna jump to this one because it just really blows my mind. Is because we're real big salmon. I got to eat my salmon. They go out to a restaurant, order salmon. Yeah, I'm gonna get the salmon because you just say, "Ding, that's a healthy food." But I'm gonna tell you something. If you're eating farm raised salmon, I'll say farm raised fish. Man, that stuff is like, it's almost like a kennel. I mean, they have so many fish in a closed and tight pool. I mean, they eat them. They eat their fishes. They eat their each other. And then they put all this red dye in there to get the coloring, and it's kind of sickening to talk about. But when you buy your fish, make sure it's wild caught. We can only be sure of so many different things, but that's one of the things that you really want to watch out for is things that when it says farm raised, that is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. Um, those I'll talk about right off the bat. But you wonder why. One of the things what I looked at was how many things are banned, how many ingredients are banned over in Europe but are not banned here. And one of the reasons why is because in Europe, they use what they call the precautionary principle, which is if they think that this particular ingredient will cause cancer or some of the other things, that they won't use it. But here in the United States, we use the FDA, and the FDA basically has certain guidelines which they use so that there's a lot of things that they don't ban just for that reason. But some of the stuff that are banned is like, I mean, that are made differently over in Europe and in America, even though it's the same product, like Skittles. And Skittles here in the United States are artificial color, and then other things in Europe, they use like most natural colors. And I always wonder why. I mean, but I guess if they feel like they can control our food, they can control us. Have you ever thought about why watermelons don't have seeds, or why you buy these fruits now that they don't have seeds? That's controlling people
that's
because you
right.
never. What does that say? You can't grow your own.
That's right.
We used to take watermelon seeds and put them in a little thing and then throw them out in the backyard. Next thing you know, we got a little vine we're growing, and next thing you know, we got a little watermelon. Can't do that no more. And people don't even think of it. They think of it more as convenience. You
Well, that's
know.
the way it's packaged. Okay, most traps are subtle. Okay, you never see it coming, and we have ascribed to this subtle brainwashing of seedless grapes and I mean, even seedless cannabis. All right, you name it.
Right.
Okay, back in the day, you put it on the album cover or a shoebox cover. You're scraping the seeds out
Right.
so you can get to the main product. Now you don't have that, and so that should be a wake up call to most of us. In the event that you can, matter of fact, it's hard to even go buy some seeds, okay, because they've taken a lot of seeds off the market. They being some of the companies called Monsanto, I think it is. They was one of the leaders in a lot of the chemicals and pesticides and stuff like that. And it's a control mechanism because if I can control what you eat, now ultimately I'm going to control your health. Okay, and since I got the cure over here to your health, I control your life. And so everything is connected, and we have to be wiser in our choices, not only of the foods, and there's situations where you can have a garden, you should grow one. To George's point about catching eating wild raised or wild caught fish or what have you, and then also the concern you have to take into considerations the mercury in fish. So depending upon where your locale is, while certainly salmon is probably one of the better ones because of the omega 3 fatty tissue that's in it, but still salmon has a moderate degree of mercury depending upon where it's coming from. And so the origin of your food, how long it's got to, to your point, George, about the preservatives, you think about if you're in the Midwest or the Southwest and you're waiting on shrimp, lobster, which, personally, if you look at where the shrimp and the lobster, and people throw shade on catfish, well, hell, the shrimp and lobster is bottom feeders too. So if you don't eat catfish, but you like shrimp, well, do your research, doggone.
Same thing. Same thing.
Excuse me, it's the same daggone thing. That goes for lobster too, by the way. All right, so but my point is that the refrigeration process preserved and stuff that you're going to have to wait on Atlantic cod to come from the Atlantic Ocean up in the New England area to get all the way to Dallas, Texas, or Fort Worth, Texas, or whatever, unless it's coming from the Gulf of Mexico. Think in terms of those things and how many times it has, maybe it's been refrigerated, some type of preservative is in there. George, to your point, once it gets to the market, which could be 3 days later, 2, 3 days later, you don't know that, but then they're going to put some dye or put something on it, was lemon or whatever, and all that kind of stuff to make it pop in terms of colorization, and they sell it to you as fresh. So again, we have to be wise about where we get our food. And if you see something that's farm raised, I'm like George, run, don't walk to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, you're a fisherman. You've caught salmon before. You don't. You've never seen salmon the color that you see it in the grocery
Nope,
store. I
nope.
mean, they make it that dark color, like you said, so it pops in your eye, and you can't catch that. And the same thing with, M&Ms. That's something you need to start. Artificial colors,
Mhm.
Doritos. Stay away from that. That's. But Gatorade. They push Gatorade. Oh, it's great to drink, but yeah, but they put artificial. They put sugar. They put a ton of sugar in it, and then they put all these colors in it. So yeah, Mountain Dew. Here again, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, and Coke, all of those, just man, it's like every single. I always tell you when we were kids, you take a battery of your car and you put a
Yeah,
penny on, put Mountain Dew on it. I mean, Coke on it, see what it does to the acid around your battery.
it cleans it.
Yes,
It
sir.
sure
So you
do.
can imagine what it's doing to your inners.
That's
So this it's Lucky Charms, Ritz crackers, Little Debbie sweets. Kraft macaroni and cheese,
right.
Starburst, Jello. I can go on and Wonder Bread, go on and on and on. But these are the kind of things that we have to change our diet and kind of stay away from. My thing now is after I eat my dinner, I find the nuts, and that's what I'm gonna eat: almonds and cashews, and that's what I'm gonna snack on the rest of the night because that's the only thing that's kind of pure, and you don't have to worry about all these additives they put in it.
Man, that's why we got 200-pound 5-year-olds walking around. Because of all that garbage and Halloween and all these candies and stuff, and they're in a certain aisle, especially if you go to the hood, to a store if you can find one, a grocery store. They got all that candy right there at 2-year-old level, so that's why they're always looking for the candy and stuff. And but sugar is what I want to get on. We are allowing sugar to rule our lives. Sugar is the biggest drug that's out there. Okay, it's more addictive than cocaine, heroin, and all other crap put together. Now, those are controlled substances, whereas sugar should be the controlled substance because it is out of control as it relates to our health, especially us as African Americans. Now, because and we real big on following the masses and treating the symptoms instead of treating the cause. And so, because of this diabetic drug called Wegovy, or what they call GLP-1 type drugs, that treats the symptoms, treats the results actually of diabetes. We got children, man, with type 2 diabetes. That was unheard of, totally freaking unheard of in our era. Food choices. That's what it is. I think you're on mute, George.
Yeah, that's what I was saying was, diseases that would normally, get older people are we're seeing a lot of those in our younger people. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and that's because of what they eat, and
Yep.
we have to be cognizant of that, of what we're giving our kids, because it's not, you give them food sometimes to pacify them, but you have to look at what you're giving. You got to make it, give them that pear or plum or something like that, as opposed to giving them some of those sweet, satisfying, because you're like, that's what they're going to crave. Like you said, with the sugar, that's definitely what they're going to crave.
And George, to your point, also you use the term preservative, but it's like a cover story for the word um, process. Processed meats, your bologna, your salami, and all those things have been processed. Think of the word process. What process did that meat have to go through from, I guess, from the pig to your plate? Okay, there's a complete process, and I'm not going to get so graphic on here, but you go to YouTube or one of them other stories, medias, and see it. If you've never been to a slaughterhouse, maybe you should drive by one and take a deep breath and inhale, because that's a part of the process. That
Yeah, that's a part of the process. Yeah.
okay. So if you're a hot dog lover or eater or a bologna sandwich maker and stuff, and Lord knows I've had my share of bologna sandwiches when I
We
did.
have, haven't we?
Yes. Okay. So I know how good they can be and stuff. But now, are they good for you? And we learn, when you learn better, you're supposed to do better. Okay. And, again, black folk, we know how we love our Kool Aid. And Kool Aid ain't Kool Aid unless it's what? Sweet. Okay. I mean,
That's like
sweet.
sweet tea here in the South. That's, man, it's almost like drinking syrup. Some places they put so much sugar in it.
Yeah. And so we got to get used to it, back away from those sodas, drink you some water. Because even some of the orange juices and other fruit, which now there's obviously natural fruit that has natural juices, okay, and it happens to be sweet, all right. But again, to George's point, look at the label of your orange juice, your organic orange juices, or whatever orange juices they are, okay. And though it may be freshly squeezed, but look at those labels. If you got a word longer than water, all right, just put that question mark by what has been the process of getting this orange juice from me, from the fresh orange. What is that process of getting that fresh orange? Chances are it came from Florida to your refrigerator in Minneapolis. And if it didn't come from Florida, then you know your orange juice could be artificial.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then when you talk about that, I always like to give this little tidbit. If you ever go to the grocery store and there's a little, especially like I'll use apples and oranges as an example. There's a little sticker on there. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but there's a number associated with that.
Yep,
So if it's a 4-digit code starting with 304,
mhm,
so it
yep,
it indicates where it was grown. So if it's a 3, you want to kind of stay away from it, because that's what they call it. It's GMO,
yeah,
meaning it's modified. If
mhm,
it's a 4, that means it wasn't organically grown, but it was grown without GMO being modified. So you have to look at those things. So even on organic, organic doesn't necessarily mean that it's as wholesome as we think it is. They can do one thing to make it past FDA to make it seem organic, but it can be, just has just as harmful things in it as non-organic things. And that's when things that are in the bottle, things that are processed, and things of that nature. So you have to look up at the definition of what qualifies things as organic, which tells you the whole story. Well, yeah, next time you go, if it's organic, it usually starts with a 5. If it's GMO, it's a 5-digit code that starts with an 8. So you have to look at what these numbers are and what numbers are on these fruits and vegetables to see here again to see what's going into your body. So we just can't assume. We have to do the research.
yeah. Very well. You know, I hate to use that term they, But I believe the government has some responsibility, so I'll eliminate they and tell you exactly who I believe it is. Okay, now, as we always say on the Crotchety Old Men show, these are our own opinions. So, uh, I'll leave it at that. These are our own opinions, not the opinion of the show. So don't, trying to sue me and all that kind of stuff. But
Exactly.
but bottom line is that I personally believe that the federal government has a whole lot to do with the poisoning of our foods and things of that nature. It's not by happenstance that a lot of the trees are removed from certain areas in cities and stuff. You go to your more wealthier neighborhoods and you'll find trees, all right, because of those sun rays has a lot of detrimental effects if you're in it so long. And of course, in our concrete jungles, if you will, a lot of places in urban areas don't even have, it's like a food desert. So you have nowhere to even plant a garden because the erection of all the apartment buildings and the new housing and stuff is taking away the land. And so the land becomes very, very less and less and less to give you the opportunity to not only grow food, but also for the air system. Okay, the oxygenization that trees and plant life give off, okay, to protect us and things like that, not only from sun rays, but it also, that's why they have so many more and more black people, I believe, with COPD issues and asthma issues, with issues that we didn't have before because back in the day in the hood, we used to have fruit trees, pear trees, apple trees, and things of that nature. We had a lot of tree lined streets. You go to a lot of urban neighborhoods now, you don't have nearly as many tree lined streets as you did once before. And so all of those things are connected to our way of being, of our help, having a healthy lifestyle and living longer. There should be more of us living to get to the not the octogenarian age, the centennial age of 100, as opposed to so many of us dying before we're 50 and dying from ailments and illnesses and things like that that just wasn't a part of our past. So we can see how those things have changed over the years. And as they continue to change and evolve over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, ask ourselves this question: is it going to get worse or is it going to get better?
We know it's going to get worse because it's
Well,
all about the dollar. How they can make more money off of us.
yeah,
A switch changing the gears just slightly. Cosmetics. People kind of take that for granted, but cosmetics have a lot of things, ingredients in them that are not healthy for us either. For example, for formaldehyde, which I remember we heard of that when we were kids, but it's still being used in like hair straighteners and nail products. Uh, in the UK, it's limited, as far as what they use. It's another one, DM, and DM is another contaminant they use in shampoos and lotion. Quantum 15 creams and shampoos. There's in moisturizers. There's a lot of different chemicals that they use that are harmful to us, but they don't tell you. I mean, that's like thousands of products. It gets scary, but then a lot of these are not allowed or very much restricted over in Europe, where here in the United States they're allowed because the restrictions by the of our policy, the FDA, they allow a lot of these products or ingredients, whereas makeup and lotion and cosmetics and moisturizers, all this. So you got to read these labels and see what we kind of have a thing here is can't pronounce it, can't and don't make we're not sure what it is. We kind of put that one back, because if you don't know what it is,
right.
you need to be careful. Because and then people wonder, why is my hair falling out? Why do I have this rash on my arm? Or and it's some of the things that we're using on a day that we take for granted. Back in the day, it was a natural product. You used to use cocoa butter.
Yeah,
You can barely even find cocoa butter in the store. I mean, we were looking for some way. We went to like 3 or 4 different stores. People looked at us like we were asking for a foreign product, asking for cocoa butter. But here again, it's a natural thing that you can put on your skin, Vaseline. These are natural things. They don't put a lot of additives in them, but they pushed us away from a lot of these natural things that we used to use when we were kids.
Yeah, and that, a lot of that comes from marketing and advertising because we spend so much time on TV, and TV tells you if you unless you have this product or this service, you're behind. You're not cool or you're not hip, or this is why you want to look. This is the way you want to look. All right. And I think they've done that. I think, and this probably has been tossed around in many forums and stuff that with our black women, all right, they make them think that, all right, you're not beautiful unless you got hair from top of your head to your ankles. All right. And so we made believe that here, buy this hair growth so your hair can be long and flowing and you can be beautiful and lovely. Well, I've seen plenty of lovely, beautiful looking women that don't have long hair all the way down to their toenails. Okay. And number two, the false advertisement is that those other ethnic women that you see, that's not their hair either. All right. They have them extensions and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So
Mhm.
instead of embracing your own natural beauty, because a lot of those cosmetic products and things and stuff, I'll call it face paint, you don't need that mess anyway, because most black women have this natural melanin in their skin. We come in all shades and colors, you know. So we have women from the very fair skin to the very dark skin and everything in between, and they're all beautiful. All right, in their own ways and stuff. But the texture of their skin, you can tell the texture of a person's skin. You can look at a person's skin and tell whether or not they smoke cigarettes regularly. Got that ashiness, whether they drink alcohol or a lot. You can look at their skin and tell whether they drink water, more water than any other things and stuff. Just by what you put into your body is going to radiate on what people see on the outside. Okay, it's not from the outside that you beautify; it's from the inside out. A healthy body can't help but show itself. So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
take responsibility for your own rescue.
That's the bottom line. And here again, it's we want you to live longer. We want you to be educated. That's our whole model. Exposure, education, providing information. I tell you, man, you got this chat services and Google services. Just go in there and type in, what foods are approved here and used in the United States, what cosmetics are used here and not in Europe. See, that tells me a lot, because of the fact that people, if you ever hear statistics, people in Europe live longer, and people say wonder why. It's not a wonder why. You can look at what they're doing, because everything we do is somewhat excessive. Alcohol, you have to look at what they're putting in alcohol. I mean, tequila became a well known, especially for black folks. I'm drinking some tequila. I'm drinking some Patron. You ever look? And that stuff has so much sugar in it, and you have to be careful of that. But now they're coming out with organic, and they're coming out with tequilas that are grown with healthy products, made with healthy products, but you have to search for this kind of stuff, because if not, you're going to gravitate, like you say, to the well-known names, like you say, how the marketing, marketing, if you're following marketing, it'll almost kill you, because they want you to eat the stuff that's going to sell, as opposed to the stuff that's healthy for you. It's interesting. What's it called fructose, that
Yeah.
sugar.
Mhm.
I was just looking for some regular sweet pickles, and I picked up, your standard brand, and it was like the second product on there was, fructose. And I'm like, why would I had to search for a jar of pickles that didn't have that in it. And, but that's just how you have to be, somewhat that dogmatic in what you're going to put in your basket. We were at the grocery store one time, and I'm not gonna say my grocery bill has gone down, but I was looking at the lady in front of us. She spent uh, as much or more than we did, and everything that was in her basket was either in a can or box or a bag. So ours was, fruits and vegetables and things like that. So, I was like, okay, so she got all this here again, processed food. And,
Yeah.
she was a slightly overweight lady, but, here again, you have to there ain't no wonder why, why, so, but, hey, we got to eat healthier. Like I said, we
Yeah.
have to eat healthy. We need to take, like you say, invest in ourselves. Like we talk about money and investing in money, but hey, your health is your most productive thing that you have. I mean, without your health, you don't have nothing. I don't care how much money you have. You know, being able to get up in the morning and do exercise, you got to here again. You got to put fuel in your tank, meaning your body, to able be even be able to exercise, but make sure it's the right food. You know.
Yeah, I'm so glad you tied that to money because your health is your wealth. I was thinking, making some notes today before the podcast about this wealth transfer with all the businesses and the baby boomers are selling their businesses and things of that nature. And you probably, if you paid any attention, you've heard about it, and if you haven't, you will. But taking that same concept, we're talking about baby boomers, people that's older than 55, 65, 70 years old. And so they sell their companies or they even retire. And they have this so called nest egg. You know where that nest egg goes toward? A huge chunk of that nest egg or the sale from that business or the retirement fund goes toward medical care. Healthcare is right up there next to air. All right. It goes toward healthcare because of all those 40, 50, 60 years of rushing to eat, whether you run a business or you go to work, eating processed food, all those homemade sandwiches. You think you're saving some money by not going to the restaurant, but if those sandwiches contain processed meats and all kind of stale and breads and stuff with all the preservatives and stuff. So you're eating yourself to death or into sickness. So then when you retire or sell your company, you spend most of your money on healthcare and medicine. The next highest thing is your housing. No, I'm not talking about downsizing from an 8 bedroom house to a 2 bedroom apartment housing. I'm talking about having to go to a assisted living housing because you need some assistance because of years of eating sugar and all this other garbage and stuff. You got so much inflammation in your legs and your knees that you can't stand up long enough to brush your doggone teeth or memory care because a lot of the things that is science is being proven now because of the memory care and the lack of you talk about dementia and Alzheimer and stuff is some connection to how we eat or what we eat or what's in the foods that we eat. Last but not least is skilled nursing care. So those three housing situations, neither one of the three are favorable. Neither one of the three are in your control, but all three takes up your money. So the end result becomes, yeah, your health is your wealth. Okay. If you want to have a lasting life, mind you, what good is a long life if you're in sickness or you can't get out of bed or you can't enjoy a sunset or a sunrise or go fishing or ride your bike or hold your hand with a loved one and go take a walk? All of that is a part of life. And it's a part of, life is what you live, but style is how you live it. And if you can't enjoy things of life, if you're in a hospital bed, a skilled nursing facility where you got somebody's paid only $20 an hour to come down and wash your behind, roll you over so you don't get sores, or you go to an assisted living or any of those type of places, then there goes all your wealth.
Hey, about to say preach on. I mean, that was exact. I mean, that you could. I can't say it any better, Smitty. That's what it's all about. You know, it's almost like pay me now, pay me later. I mean, because
That's it.
if you don't take care of yourself, while you're young. I think last time we did a podcast on 20, 30, 25 to 40 as far as savings, but if you don't save, you're going to not benefit when you get to be 60 and 70 years old. And it's the same thing with eating. If you don't start eating right when you're between 25 and 40, 50 years old, you're going to pay for it in the long run when you get 60 and 70, because like you said, you're going to have to, need some type of care, and you're not going to be able to do the things. You're not going to be able to enjoy yourself. And that's like I said, life is for the living. You want to enjoy life after you worked for so many years. But don't shortcut what you put in your system. Take your time, understand what you're eating. There's so many different foods that can benefit us, but you have to search for them. You have to go to that farmer's market instead of going to some of these grocery stores that aren't providing the food that's going to nourish your body. That's what we say when we pray for the nourishment of our body, right?
Yes. Those of us who
Yeah,
pray.
yeah, yeah. The nourishment of our body. So that's what we want to do. We want to nourish our body, our mind, our soul. With the proper foods that we put in, that we ingest. So I think we kind of hammered it home today, Smitty.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Those that are listening, hopefully they heard.
yeah. Hopefully they'll hear what we're talking about and take heed to it. Do their research, and get on that train that's going to allow them to live to that ripe old age. So what you got for us today, Smitty? What kind of words of wisdom you got? I mean, not that you haven't, spoken a lot already and given us a lot of nuggets. What else you got back?
Well, look here. Knowledge is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing when to say it.
There you go. There we go. So we kind of know what we would say because it was on my heart all week. So we kind of put it out there for the masses to take a hold of. So like we always say on the Crotchety Old Men, if you didn't know,
Now,
now you know. All right, take care. Be blessed.
peace.
Peace.